Brandon from Daily Dose of Wisdom goes in on Sam Harris.
This is the parasitic world of Sam Harris.
So there's like this new documentary Sam Harris put together, and Brandon goes in. Usually he's more charitable and he's more nice, but he really goes in talking about the contradictions and even hypocritical things that Sam Harris does, especially in this video. It's so funny, but let's go ahead and watch.
This is the parasitic world of Sam Harris.
I don't think the story of all of our mayhem and unnecessary suffering has much to do with bad people doing bad things. I think for the most part, it's good people, or at least normal people, under the influence of bad ideas.
Sam Harris has just released one of the most ironic and self-refuting videos of all time. And in this video, we're going to show you why. Like a parasitic creature living off the host, his particular brand of atheism survives only by leeching off the source while simultaneously rejecting that source. Let's get into it.
It's been widely thought that we have something like a crisis of meaning, especially in the developed world at this point.
The materialism, the atheism that he has pushed out for so long has brought about this crisis of meaning. Yes, there is a crisis of meaning. Of course there is. You've brainwashed an entire generation by telling them everything is a cosmic accident. Love is just chemicals. We don't have souls. There is no God. There is no morality. There is no meaning. And now you're complaining about the impact of that brainwash. Now you're complaining about the fact that there's a crisis of meaning.
So I think it's very interesting that Sam Harris doesn't understand the role that he has played. He was one of the four horsemen of the atheism apocalypse nonsense that he was spewing, and he doesn't understand that if you follow his worldview down to his conclusion, that this is what we're left with.
Infecting more ants, releasing more spores, infecting more ants,
Culture has atomized, right? We're all kind of on our own with our phones and laptops and our digital media experiences. No one knows what everyone else is seeing on some level. And we spend so much time thinking about and reacting to the digital lives we and others have created that there has been this shattering effect of culture. So I think we need a truly open-ended conversation with now 8 billion strangers. And what makes that hard to do increasingly is a level of political fragmentation and extremism and partisanship born of our engagement with these new technologies.
A while back, I made a video about how Sam Harris is going off in the deep end. And so it's interesting that he wants to have this conversation. But some of the quotes was that he didn't care if Joe Biden's son had literally, he says literally, the corpses of children, dead children inside of his basement. He would not have cared.
I don't care what's in Hunter Biden's life. I mean, Hunter Biden, at that point, Hunter Biden literally could have had the corpses of children in his basement. I would not have cared. I would not have cared. The corpses of children in his basement. I would not have cared.
What?
So that is such an extreme place to be, right? It's an extreme place for Sam Harris to be. So it's hard for me to even take him serious and say, hey, yeah, let's have this conversation that you want to have. This conversation where we come together and have an honest conversation when you're such at an extreme place in your life.
Born of the fact that we just simply can't agree about who is lying most of the time, right? And, you know, who is misinformed, who is in possession of only half the story.
Now, I want to say I agree with his point here. It's a true conclusion. It's just the premise that I don't understand on his worldview. I don't see how he gets here other than that way being a parasitic way. He desires universal truth and complains about our inability to agree on it, entirely missing how this very longing reflects the failure of relativistic ethics and atheistic subjectivism. You cannot have your cake, Mr. Harris. You have already eaten it.
We're witnessing a fairly stark zero-sum contest between those of us who want to maintain open societies and anything like democracy and capitalism as we've come to understand them, and those who increasingly want to build closed ones.
Harris's dichotomy here assumes that secular liberalism is inherently superior, yet much of what he values, namely freedom, dignity, human rights, originated within a Judeo-Christian worldview. Again, By rejecting the tree but wanting the fruit, we can see this parasitic effect in play and how his position undermines itself.
The thing to recognize is that we live in perpetual choice between conversation and violence. Those are really the two alternatives. When we have to get people in line, when people have to cooperate, well, then we've got persuasion or coercion.
I think it's interesting to note at this point that Sam Harris, neuroscience, actually believes that we don't have free will. So I want to know how he kind of comes to that we have these choices that we can make, but we actually don't have the ability to make the choices. I think that's interesting and something that I don't know if he doesn't know what he's saying, or he doesn't see the implications of saying you have no free choice, or how that all works. I'm not exactly sure. The other thing is, I love how Dr. Frank Turek always says is that people like to steal from God in order to make their case. And as Brandon was mentioning and others mentioned, that a lot of what he wants to do, he's trying to just take all the good, but he wants to act like as if it came from himself, or not even acknowledge where it came from, and do all away with theology, Christianity, I think religion for the most part. He wants to use the good. The other thing that I want to mention is just the idea that he's saying, how many of us, we don't even know who has half the information. We don't even know who has all the information. We don't even know when we're missing information. And I find that is very telling, but also the fact that he doesn't realize that he could be one of the people that is missing half of the information. So the stances that he's taking, the people that he's looking up to, voting for, or promoting and believing in, also are manipulating the situation, also are not telling the full story, also are part of that problem. And he doesn't see, because in his mind, at least what I would think is that he has the answer, he has the right answer, he has the right understanding, and everybody else is misinformed, everybody else is missing some pieces of the puzzle, and his job is to educate them and say, hey, let me show you the rest of the puzzle, when actuality he is also missing those pieces. And it's very clear that he doesn't even see how what he's saying connects to his responsibility. He's not taking responsibility for his role in creating most of this chaos going on.
Conversation can't possibly be exaggerated because it is the bulwark against perpetual violence. It's the bulwark against murder. It's the bulwark against war. It's the only thing keeping those things out of our daily experience.
This part's interesting because Harris acknowledges the need for persuasion over coercion, but ignores how atheism lacks a moral basis to reject violence outright. If we are mere products of blind evolution, why would truth or conversation even really matter other than for some merely utilitarian purpose? And again, ironically, the Christianity that he has famously rejected offers such a solution, a unique call to peace that is rooted in intrinsic value of every human being, given that we are, on the Christian worldview, created in the image of God himself. So sacrificial love, considering others above oneself, these types of things make sense in a Christian paradigm. They don't really make sense in Harris's paradigm.
I haven't had a chance to watch this documentary thing from Harris, but if you do, let me know your comments, your thoughts. Maybe there's something in there more that I can comment on or actually look and learn from. But I do agree with Brandon in all of his assessments of what Harris is doing, where he's like a parasite, where he's trying to take all the good nutrients from Christianity, but not actually keep Christianity. But as always, if you have any questions, put it in the chat. And until next time, peace.